Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pierce. This is a Ukraine war breaking news update. It's going to be a very short one because there's not a lot said here, but it's somewhat revealing. A breaking news update on whether the US is going to give Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine, or at least sell them, which is probably more likely, to NATO allies who would get them to Ukraine. Donald Trump was asked about this in a recent press gaggle, and this is what he said. It is a bit garbled, but actually therefore somewhat revealing, because you can quite often read quite a bit into what Donald Trump is saying.
Have you made a decision on whether to supply Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine or sell them to NATO and let them sell them to Ukraine?
Yeah, I've sort of made a decision, pretty much.
I've sort of made a decision, pretty much, yeah. So, sorry to interrupt. I'm going to take this bit by bit, because each phrase requires some parsing. So, I think this is an admission that he has decided to give missiles to Ukraine, or more likely sell them to Ukraine. Because if he wasn't going to do that, he would just say no and then talk about how he would be worried about how they would be used incorrectly, or that the US didn't have enough. But he said, yeah, I've sort of made a decision. And then he goes on to qualify that decision, but it does depend on these caveats. If the answer was no, he wouldn't go on to those caveats in a way he does.
NATO and let them sell them to Ukraine.
Yeah, I've sort of made a decision, pretty much. If you consider, yeah, I think I want to find out what they're doing with them.
Yes.
You know, where are they sending them? I guess I'd have to ask that question.
The intonation he has on his sentences here, with the way he's saying this, I think also indicates that it's probably what he's going to do. Because when you're speaking like this, you're thinking, yeah, I'm thinking about doing that, yeah. Rather than if you were thinking no, you'd be, the way that you speak, your intonation, you'd probably, I don't know that you'd be ascending, you'd be descending, you'd be like, yeah, no, I don't think I will. And yeah, it's a difficult decision, but I'm not 100% sure that's something I'm going to do. So you end up sort of going downwards rather than going upwards. And I think this is a much more of a light sense of response, isn't it? He's quite, yeah, I think I made a decision. Yeah, I mean, it does depend what they're going to do with them, and I think it's fair enough for me to ask that. But assuming that they are going to send them at targets that I'd agree with, then yeah, I think it's a probability that we are going to get Tomahawks to Ukraine. That's how I'd interpret this, but I could well be wrong. I could be reading Trump incorrectly here. Let me know what you think.
Ukraine.
Yeah, I've sort of made a decision, pretty much. If you consider, yeah, I think I want to find out what they're doing with them.
Yes.
You know, where are they sending them? I guess I'd have to ask that question. That war should never have started, would have never started. Such bad judgment was used there. I think on both sides, by the way. But nobody looks good with the war with Russia and Ukraine. Nobody. It's been a horrible. This week they lost over 7,000 soldiers between the two of them.
I mean, he keeps saying this week they've lost that many, and he said that last week and the week before and the week before and the week before and the week before, irrespective of whatever data is actually out there. He has these sound bites that he just repeats ad infinitum. You know, whether it's talking about rubble and spires and whatever it is, he'll mention the same stuff. There's no qualification of his claims over time.
This is every week they're losing 7,000, 8,000, 5,000.
They have a range of like...
Every week they're losing 7,000, 8,000, 5,000. So then he's like, okay, sometimes it's different, but he's just said this week they've lost 7,000, which is what he said the last time. So just, I'd like to say, oh, take what he says with a pinch of salt, but the simple fact is that this guy lies so much that actually it's dangerous to just normalize this sloppy kind of thinking, and I think it's irresponsible for a president to be so blasé with these sorts of claims. But going back to the core subject here, I think this is generally positive in terms of Tomahawks for Ukraine, but it might not be definite at the moment. But probability wise, you're looking, it's looking somewhat likely.
1,500 miles or something, so they'd be able to.
No, I know. No, I would ask some questions. I want to see what's.
Mr.
I'm not looking to see escalation.
You made a decision on whether.
And that very last comment is probably your most negative part there.
I'm not looking to see.
I'm not looking to see escalation, but actually the bit just before that.
I would ask some questions.
So I would ask some questions would be the sort of thing you'd say if you're saying, yes, I'm going to give it to you, but I'd ask some questions, rather than no. If you're not going to give them to them, then you don't need to ask questions. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, I've said no because I've got the rationale for why I'm not going to give it to you. I mean, I could ask some questions, but I pretty much decided no. I think it's more likely to go the other way. Yeah, I've got some questions, so I think it's right for me to ask some questions, but I think we're looking at giving them to them. Then he gives a caveat at the end. I still think that fits in line with likely to give them, but we don't want to escalate.
I'm not looking to see escalation.
So, I think you could probably build a case both ways, but I think that generally speaking, what Trump said there would indicate that they are more likely to give Tomahawks or sell Tomahawks eventually to Ukraine than not. But let me know what you think. This is super important because Ukraine need as many long distance weapons as possible. I think it's absolutely vital that they are striking Russia from a distance at all possible opportunities. And we've seen today that they have struck somewhere between 1,300 and 2,000 kilometers, depending on how it's calculated, where you're drawing that line from, deep into Russia at the refinery in Tyumen. So, they have an appetite for striking deep. Will the US allow them to use the Tomahawks in those ways? Well, there's no point giving them sort of long distance cruise missiles unless you are going to use them in a way that strikes deep into Russia. So you'd assume that would be fine for the Americans. The next question then follows: how are you going to fire the Tomahawks? Because usually they're fired from sort of ships and submarines and whatnot. There is a Typhon system that can fire it from the ground. Anyway, that's my tuppence on what Trump has said. Let me know what you think. Take care and speak soon.